Let's take a look at the new Autodesk Quantity Takeoff 2010. What I have here is a DWF file. This was made from Revit, which is a great way to make DWFs. You can also make them out of AutoCAD architecture. You do it just by hitting the File, Publish DWF. You can make a 2D or a 3D, or both. Making both is a good idea for QTO because then you can use the model takeoff capability, which we'll show you, but you don't have to. You can use 2D DWF. One important thing, though, before you make your DWF is make sure that you check this box right here, Rooms and Areas, because that's where all the numbers that you need for calculating linear lengths and areas and counts comes from. So make sure that you check that. It isn't always checked by default. So we won't go ahead and make the DWFs. I've already made them, but here they are. DWFs are very lightweight and small. Now, here's one of the things that's great about DWF. You'll notice, great about QTO. You'll notice I've got my search takeoff selected, and as I highlight over a wall, or as I move the mouse over, it highlights, tells me that that's an exterior siding wall. I'm going to measure it by, you can measure it by linear, by area, by volume, by count. I'm going to say area, and we're going to go down and grab everything. These are all the properties of that wall. It's non-bearing, it's upper floor, top, 349 square feet, so on and so forth. All this is stored in the DWF file, so tons of intelligence there. We're going to grab that, and you'll notice it's highlighted all of that. The highlighting is a little difficult to see on this screen, but you'll get the idea. I'm going to keep on going. We're going to get the rest of it. Let's grab that one also. And I've got those, and that looks like all the exterior there. Most estimators want to see it in front of them. Now over here are all my documents, and you'll notice that I've got measurements already. The little yellow arrow or little yellow ruler means there's already been measurements done on these other floors. The reason for that is QTO is matching that not just on the current sheet, but on all sheets throughout the project. So you see there, I've already got this side measured. So if I'm an estimator, I don't have to go back and do it again because we've already measured it on the first floor. And there's some in here on the second floor that didn't get done, and I'll go ahead and measure those also. There's a lot of different wall types in this project. There we go. Now we got a first floor and a second floor, and then we're going to go back to the elevations. Let's take a look at those. Elevations are a great way to measure area also, because now you see we have the yellow for the second floor and the purple or the light blue for the first floor, which, you know, if I don't like those colors, because especially this one's hard to see, I can double click and I can make this a different color. Let's go with that. And I can change the opacity if I want, and I can also put a hatch on it if I want to. So if you wanted to hatch it out so that it looks a little better to see, and hatching works better on areas than it does lines, because you already have it hatched with a line pattern. So it'll look better when you do an area when you hatch. Okay, so here we are. Now we've got all these zeros, and if I look down here at my workbook, it says 0. Why is that? That is because I've never taken this off before, and it knows that I want to measure by area, but it doesn't know what field in these objects relates to area. So if I go in and I do this, and I tell it these are areas, now you see all the numbers pop up. So the key is, if you're measuring by length, you want to map length to length. Once you do this one time, you don't have to do it again. If you're going to do volume, you map volume to volume, and so forth. So you keep on doing that, and then what you end up with is your model taken off. Okay, so now when we look at the workbook, it shows us there are 1,784 square feet. And if I filter right here, I can filter this by sheet or by project. If I just want to see what's on the sheet in front of me, there's only 578 square feet on the sheet. Oops. But if I do this, I can see the whole project. So what I can do is go around the document, go around and take all of that off, and eventually I'll have the whole thing selected. I'm going to show you a different way to do it in a minute, but I just wanted to give you a concept of how you do takeoffs using elevations and floor plans. So there's that one, and you see everything's been counted there already. There's the yellow, that was one type of wall. There's the blue, that's the other. So as an estimator now, I know that I've counted everything. Now let's take a look at assemblies, because people want to do things off these measurements. I'm going to create let's create a new group called Materials. And I'm going to create a new object underneath Materials called Sheathing. Oops, not Sheathing. And we'll create another one called Siding. These are typically two things that you put into a wall. And we're going to count sheathing by the sheet. So I'm going to do that as a count, because I want to count 4 by 8 sheets of sheathing. And then I want to count siding by area. So now my goal here is to figure out how much siding and how many pieces of sheathing do we need. So I'm going to go into my workbook, and I'm going to bring this up a little bigger here, and I'm going to pin it so that it stays here while I'm working. Now, I can do this twice, or I can use my takeoff tool to group these together, which, you know, to me that kind of makes more sense. There's not two different types of wall there. They're really one type of wall. So if I wanted to, I could create a new group here, call it exterior wall, and then I can put these inside that. That way I just have one grouping for exterior walls that shows everything that's happening in my exterior walls. Okay, so now what I can do is I can right-click on one of the items here, and I can say add an item. And what I'm going to add, both of these have the same property, although I might want to have siding and siding red. I don't know what those are. But I'm going to right-click and say add item, and I'm going to go into my materials, and I'm going to select everything I want to add to that wall. And I'm going to do the same for this one. So now I have some things in here. So we have sheathing and siding on both. Now, this one, they all say 0 right now because it doesn't know how sheathing relates to siding. So I'm going to say, give it a formula. It's just like Excel. I can type in area divided by sheathing is 4 by 8, which is 4 times 8 is 32. So we're going to divide by 32. And if I wanted to, I could put in a waste factor, or I could not divide by 32 and divide by something else. So there's 55.7 sheets of sheathing there. Same thing down there. And then my siding, the siding just equals the area of. So there we go. Now I know how much of everything there is in here. On this one, this type of wall, we have 28 sheets of sheathing and 906 pieces of square feet of siding. You could convert these, if you wanted this in linear feet, you could say, turn this into feet. And then I could say, instead of 906, it's actually area divided by the height of the siding. So let's say it's a 6-inch siding. I could divide by 0.5, and now I have 1,800 linear feet of siding. But we're not going to do that. We're going to go back to this. 906 square feet. Now, the next thing people want to do is export this. You keep going. You do the windows, you do the doors, the roof. You can do kind of everything in the plan that you're interested in. We could do, you know, if I wanted to create a material called drywall, I could create a material called drywall, and I know the inside of the wall is being drywalled, so I could get the area there. When I'm done, though, I might want to export it, which you can export out to Excel. If I just export the quantities, it'll take all sheets and it'll put them out to Excel. Or I can export via a report. So I'm going to make a new report. We call it two-story house. We're going to make a material report. And I want to put all my exterior walls that I've counted in there. And then on my columns, I want to put in my quantity 1, and that's really all I need. You can label things, you can change the layout, you can change the header and footer, and so forth. What that will do is group it up. So you'll see it by type. It takes a second to generate that report. You can rerun the report too, by the way, when you're done. So once you have one you like, it gets saved and you can run it anytime you want. So there we go. We have 55.7 pieces of sheathing for that one type and 28 for the other. Now, if I don't really like the way that looks, I can group those by type. I can change the report any way I want to. So if I wanted to say, you know, I only want this type of siding, or I only want that type, or I could lay this out by item. Oh, by group. There we go. Group by items. There, let's try that. And we'll put exterior wall, and we'll put quantity 1, and we'll create that. There we go. So now we have it by grouped up by the types of wall, and then for each type, how much is needed. Another great thing that's been added to the QTO is the legend. And if we want to, we can go in here and put a legend in this report. And what's nice about that is, I don't remember where the legend is. It's in here somewhere. There it is. It gives you a way to make a nice little printout very quickly that can show somebody kind of what's going on. So as you're making these plans, you can be putting legends on here, which can be used for the fabricator, for the framer, for your sales team, or whomever, just as a way to lay out what goes in where. Okay, so now that we've done that, you notice how quick and automated that was. Very, very easy. Now I'm going to show you an even better way to do it. And if we go back over here, you're going to notice that we have that 3-story, that 3D model. It's right here, actually. I'm in the wrong place. There's going to be stuff that's already taken off in there because I've already done some takeoff. Now, even though this might look a little daunting to you if you're not used to 3D, don't sweat it because this comes right out of Revit, just like anything else. Let's go ahead and delete this out of here. Let's delete this other one. We're going to leave those materials. I'm just deleting these so we can start over. You know, it's like deleting the takeoff that I just did. Okay, we're on the model. Now, if you notice here, if I click on the model tab, you can see everything that's in that model. So if we go back to those walls again, there's my walls. There's all my wall types right there. Let's grab that exterior siding red, the one we were just looking at. I'm going to right click on it and say hide others. And you notice there they are. So now I can go around and look at that. I can zoom in on it. I can spin it around and turn it on and off and do all kinds of stuff with it. But basically, that is a great way to isolate the types of things that you're looking for. If I wanted to go in and grab all my exterior walls, I can do that also. Let's just get the ones that are sided. And we're going to do show all, and then we're going to do hide others. And now we've got all the exterior walls in that one selection. Look at that. Is that phenomenal? Now, watch this. If I go in now and I want to take those off, I can just grab them all, right click and say take off. And what that's going to do is going to go ahead and generate that takeoff for me. Now I did it in linear feet because I didn't tell it what format I wanted it in. But if I go in here and say we want that in, oops, I'm in the wrong place. If we want this in area, now we know we've got our exterior walls measured, and they're measured properly because there they are. You know, what does that total up to? We can take a look. If we just hover over it, it'll tell us what that is. So if I hover over each one, it'll highlight. I thought it would highlight that way too, but apparently not. But now I can do the same thing I just did and use my sheathing and siding, go in here and say add an item, put in my materials. By the way, if I were the estimator, I would probably go talk to the designer if I could and say, hey, can we change the way we do these walls? Maybe not put them in 3 different types if they're all the same. I understand if it has stone or something, but if they're all really siding, we have siding on 2x6, siding on 2x6 GWB, and siding on 2x6 GWB, or siding red. No reason why these two at least couldn't be combined. And then I can go in and do the same formulas that I did earlier. So I can go in here and click on the number here and say equals area divided by 32. Just do that 3 times. Area divided by 32. Area divided by 32. And we'll do siding at area. There's probably a quicker way to do this, but this is the way I would do it. You might think, wow, that's kind of tedious, but as an estimator, going through it this way makes you aware that you've caught everything, and that's very important. So the model takeoff is great because you can go in and I can say, now I'm done looking at that, let's show everything. And then let's look at windows. Maybe I want to hide everything but my windows. There they are. There's my window kit for that project, and we're going to take those off. And there's 14 of them. And here they are by type. Let's go back out of here, go into the takeoff, and you'll see 14 windows, all broken down by type. I know there's 3 fixed. There's a fixed with trim. There's a picture slider with trim. So what's great about this is now I'm not having to go in physically and click on each window. I've just sorted it by type, and QTO allows me to make that show up the way I want it to. So we want to count those. So it's pretty powerful. You're in control of the model. You can turn on what you see and what you don't see, and you can take off the things in the order and in the way that you want to. Assemblies make it very easy to control what gets put where. And one of the nice things about QTO 2010 in terms of model takeoff. Before the models, I wanted to put that in there. The models were, you just hit the button model takeoff and it ran everything. And now you can take off group by group, which I think estimators are really going to appreciate. So now if we go back to our takeoff here on the floor plans, what you're going to notice is that my elevations are all taken off. And you'll see here that I've got my legend. Let's move that out of the way. Oops. Again, I've got kind of a funky mouse today, so apologies on that. And I just grab my legend. It's kind of hiding in there. Let's see if I can do it this way. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Oops, not that. There we go. Let me go to the zoom here. And we're just going to move this down here. Unpin that so it gets a little bigger. I also recommend if you have multiple screens that you pull your toolbars off to the sides. Much easier. So there we go. We got one window, two windows, and then all your siding broken out by type. That's QTO 2010.